Father God, I thank you for the couples in this Christian marriage course. Lord, I just pray for your blessings upon each couple. Lord, I pray that as they live out each day, they would not only experience the love that you share with each person, but also that they will experience a love for one another. And Lord, I just pray that the marriage will become a source of strength for each person. Lord, for those who are weak, who are fighting illnesses, Lord, I pray for your healing upon them. And for those who are busy with different ministries, Lord, I pray for your strength to be upon them, and also pray for your protection over them. Bring them home safe so that they can be reunited with the spouse. Lord, even now as we open up, I pray that your Spirit will guide us, will teach us, will direct us to your truth, and empower us to live out those truths. We ask all this in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. All righty. I am so glad that all of you are here. I sincerely want to say thank you for each and every one of you for making yourself available for this course. I know it's a lot of commitment, and sometimes it takes a lot of work to rearrange your schedule, to look for childcare, and maybe to pass on some of your ministry to other people. And all that takes a lot of effort. So the fact that you are here is a strong sign of your commitment to building stronger marriage. And I believe God will honor that. I've personally experienced that in our relationship. Whenever I honor marriage, because that's what he taught me to do, right? To love your wife sacrificially. Whenever I do that, he will bless me in other means, so that even though it's not easy to make time for your marriage, but God sees it and he will honor you for doing that. I also want to thank the husband, especially. Quite honestly, we've done marriage course in different settings and in different places. The challenge is always to get all the husbands to come. Not because they don't want to, perhaps, but I think more often than not, they're just very busy. They're not able to put things aside to so that they can attend the class. So I know it's a lot of effort on your part to be here. So well done, husbands. I pray that you will keep up the good work. I know your wife appreciates it, and I know the Lord appreciates it. So just keep up the good work. We're in the 4th lesson already. We only have 3 more sessions. So keep coming. Love seeing all of you. So today we're going to move to the 4th topic. But before that, let me just do a quick recap. In the first lesson, we looked at why our marriage matters. And you'll remember one of the reasons is that our marriage is one of the loudest gospel message. Now, your marriage is not the gospel. We're never saying that. The gospel is what Jesus did for us on the cross. But your marriage is a visible sign that what Christ did for us, does change everything, starting with the way we interact with each other, how we love one another. So by having a strong marriage, people will see that your faith can change your life, can transform every aspect of your life. But if your marriage is just as challenging or just as bad as the non-believers, they will begin to wonder, do you really understand? Have you really experienced this love from God that you preach about so often? So I think it's important that we have a strong marriage, because it is a strong proclamation of the gospel. And as well as we shared, Satan is out to get us. I mean, all of us in ministry, Satan knows that if he can take down the shepherd, if he can take down the pastor, the sheep, the flock will scatter. And for that reason, we really need to pay attention to our marriage. The second week, we look at different ministry myths, right? One is I need to sacrifice all for ministry. Sacrifice my wife, sacrifice my kids, sacrifice everything. And that's based on the wrong hermeneutics of the verse that we often refer to. Another myth is that we all have this savior mentality, right? If I'm not there, the world will fall apart. Well, let me just tell you, even if you're not there, the world will not fall apart. God is so strong that he can sustain anything, even in your absence. So this saving mentality is a lie. Another one is we teach, therefore we know, right? We often say, oh, I don't need to go to marriage course because, hey, I teach marriage. I counsel other couples. And I shared with you, we shared with you that even some of the, well-known marriage counselors, they would be the first to admit they need to work on the marriage. Even though they write books, they teach seminars, they also need to work on it. And then the fourth myth is loving God equals serving in ministry. And sometimes we confuse us. The amount of time we put in our ministry shows how much we love God. Sometimes, but you can actually still be doing a lot of ministry and not loving God. So because of that, I think we need to really understand our relationship with God, and we must not let how many hours we spend in ministry define that relationship. And then last week we looked at social styles. Right? I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something about your spouse. We talked about different social styles, which refers to how you interact with people. So we have the analytical, we have the driver, we have the expressive, and then we have the amiable. And oftentimes couples have different social styles, and that can sometimes cause conflict. But at the same time, if you're able to adapt and work together, that actually, the complement actually makes the couple even more effective in serving in ministry. So the question is not so much, do I get along with my spouse? Rather, the question is, how do I get along with my spouse? So I hope you'll keep that in mind always, especially when you're fighting. Is not, oh, I don't get along. That's the wrong question. The right question is, how do I get along? Because you can. Why do I know you can? Because God put you together, and God has never made a mistake. So you can, but the question is, how do you do that? So today we're going to move on to another exciting topic. It's actually a part one of the fifth topic, and I'll pass the time to Josephine. You want to share them?
All right, so welcome everyone again, and I just want to do a quick quiz for everyone. If you have to rate your week this week, okay, 1 to 5, okay, 1 being fantastic. Oh, sorry, 5 being fantastic, okay, 1 being very bad, okay. So how's your week, okay, 1 to 5, okay? If I say 1 meaning very bad, 5 meaning excellent, okay? So 1, 2, 3, how many fingers would you rate your week? Okay, some people 5, 4, 6. Okay, 4. Okay, all right. Chris, 3. Okay. Tim is 3. Okay, how about Alex? Alex, I didn't see your finger. 4. Okay, all right. Okay, we talk about our emotion. But this is such a crucial topics that we need to talk about because it affects how we interact with our spouse. So today especially, we will be talking about a few areas of emotional neglect, okay? Okay, let me show you the slide. This is what we're going to talk about. Okay, so we're going to be talking about, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we lost them.
Okay, can everybody see my screen? Yes? Can see? Okay, awesome. Okay, the first one we want to talk about is emotional neglect of ourselves. Okay, so we'll be talking about some areas that we might not do much of self-care. So our emotional neglect of ourselves affect the people around us, for example, our spouse, our children, and our wider families. So today we're going to spend some time talking about each, not all of it. We'll be focusing on ourselves and our husband to wife, especially our emotional neglects between husband to spouse. And next week we'll be talking about wife to husband and then emotional neglects to our children and our wider family. So today we're going to focus on the first one that what we're going to talk about is self. Okay, so now first of all, I think we need to have a right expectation. Okay, and we all know that only God can fully satisfy our deepest emotional needs. Okay, only God can satisfy our deepest emotional needs. Sometimes we got married. We expect our spouse to fully understand who we truly are or fully satisfy our emotional needs. And this is a wrong expectation because there's no way our spouse can fully understand who we really are and truly, truly satisfy our emotional needs. So I think this is a very important foundation and expectation to begin with. But as we, each one of us, move towards God, when we build a personal relationship with God, when we have a right relationship with God, when a person is right with God, he or she can be right with the people around him or her. Okay, so I think that's very key. It's a foundation that we need to first invest the time to spend the time with God. We all know this. We all know this. Okay, so right now I want to show you a few things that emotional neglect about self. Okay, I want to show you especially on these two diagrams, and you can kind of think about it. Which diagram would be most kind of describe your life right now? Now, honestly, we're all ministry people. We constantly give and give and give and give and give and give to the people around us. And oftentimes, we kind of neglect our own emotional needs. Okay, so this is a segment that we want to really spend some time talking about. How can we also be careful? And, when we talk about self-care and soul care, how can we first also care for ourselves, our own emotional needs? Now, here are some of the indicators for emotional neglect. First of all, too busy, right? And then we become prideful because the ministry is going well, and we feel like we can handle so many things. Restlessness, tiredness, impatience. When we go home, we could be like we're easily frustrated or angry at our spouse, at our children, and we feel burnout physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And this is quite, what some signs that kind of shows that is indicator of emotional neglect of ourselves. I want to show you these two diagrams. Something that I personally experienced. There are different periods of my time that I feel like I'm in between these two diagrams. The first diagram I want to show you is called people hustle. Okay, people hustle. What do I mean by that is everything I do is based on the busy demands to kind of take over my life, ministry studies, and I'm kind of reactive. I tend to rely on my own self to serve. Okay, I tend to rely on my own self to serve. Okay, another one is I had no time with God. Okay, quiet time, it becomes just a task. It becomes a to-do list. It becomes a luxury. Only when I have time, I will do it. I can tell, you can tell when your life with God, your personal relationship with God is more like a chore. The time you spend with him is so bland, it's like a chore. That might be an indicator. Another one is people expectation. So become people pleaser. I say yes to everything. I let other people kind of plans my schedule. Everyone asks me to do something, other ministry commitments, I'll say yes without even thinking twice. Driven by people's expectation or praises, kind of seeking my own significance in the process if we're not careful, because we really so drawn and attracted to the glamorous, the praises, the attentions that we get in ministry. Another one is we may experience broken relationships in a family, like could be, our relationship with our family could be broken, and some of the habits, sins, addictions started to appear in our personal life, even though we cannot share with everyone else, but we know that something is wrong inside us. Last but not least, we burned out, emptiness. We feel confused, frustrated, overwhelmed, and we kind of leave God out of the ministry. I think there is a period of my time when I was committed too many things, and then I was trying to rely on my own strength to do everything. All of these things I've shared with you, I experienced. The second diagram I want to show you is called holy hustle. And I think after a period of time when I started to feel there's no more joy in serving, I just feel, another event, and you're just going through the motion instead of, being driven by your love for God. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure we all experienced it. The first one, holy hustle. I would say you would seek God first. Despite of busy demands, top priority is for you to spend time with God. You feel that He really the one who driving everything else. He's the one in the middle of everything in your life, driving everything. The priorities, your personal relationship comes with God comes first. Another one is clear priority that you would discern wisdom to know what is important in your life. When we're seeking God, we will have that sensitive spirit in us that we know, okay, we have to say no to this because my family needs me this week. I have to say no to this one because my health is not it's not good for my health anymore. Selectively, you would say no to things and a spirit-led commitments. So instead of saying yes to everything, you realize, hey, I can't do everything. I'll do the thing that only God impressed in my heart. That I think, given all the things that I have to do, I know this one, only this one I can commit. Balanced life, that you will be able to have a balanced relationship with your family and with God. And we kind of talk about the schedule, that your relationship with God come first, and your self-care, marriage time, children, and then last but not least, ministry. And you will be joyful when you're doing the work that He asked you to do. You will feel a sense of accomplishment, and you will feel very encouraged, and people also will feel blessed and bear fruits, and you yourself will feel, okay, yes, God, thank you so much for using me this time, instead of not another ministry event. Okay, so I don't know if you be quiet thinking about these two diagrams. Okay, which one are you tend to be? People hustle or holy hustle? People hustle or holy hustle, and why? Let's think for a second. If you have to evaluate your ministry now, your own emotional state right now, which one are you more, people hustle or the holy hustle? Now I want to ask you a question. Are you feeling exhausted, stressed, or burnout? Now, if I give you a few minutes, I want you to talk to your spouse right now. If you have to rate how you're feeling from 1 to 10, okay, what's the number you would give to yourself? Like 1 being very relaxed, not very stressed. 10 meaning very stressed, you're emotionally overwhelmed, you're burnt out, you're exhausted. So I want each one of you to give a number and then tell each other why you would give that number. Okay, so 1 being very relaxed, 10 meaning very exhausted and tired and burned out. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I want you to share with your spouse right now. Okay, I hope you have a good discussions with your spouse. The reason why I would love for you to share with your spouse, because oftentimes we could be quite occupied by with many things, and we may not even have a chance to share with our spouse how we truly feel emotionally. And I must say, it's such an important routine that we need to develop. And I find that when we had younger kids, we were not able to quite communicate constantly. And I find that without that, it's kind of hard. But now these days, our kids are a little bit older. So we constantly will share a lot of our struggles and challenges. And I find that it's so helpful because when your spouse knows what you're going through, they are really your best prayer warrior as well. So there are times at night I couldn't sleep. And I remember this week, wow, he's so stressed, so much homework. And I would pray, okay, I remember him. Okay, God, please help him now this week, help him through. It's very hard for him this week. So I think it's same for Jacob as well. He would pray for me. He knows exactly what I'm going through that week. So do make an effort to share that with your spouse if you don't have that habit developed already. And your spouse, it will be your best prayer warrior for you. Last week, I've asked many of you, how many of you have done the rest test? Raise your hand. The rest quiz. All right, very good. Now, if you have not done the rest quiz, I send it in the WhatsApp group. Please remember to do that. The rest quiz. You don't have to do it right now, but please remember to do that because it's such an important element to understand which area of rest that you need. Now, the reason I bring up rest, because I think oftentimes we're exhausted, we're stressed, it's because we actually lack the discipline of rest. Now, if we are pastor, we often tell others, or even we preach on the importance of observing Sabbath, okay? But yeah, we're the one, I'm sorry to say, because we're part of, also ministry, we know how busy it is, right? And sometimes we're the one who fail to observe Sabbath. And then time went by, and then you just, we just get more tired, and we just become ineffective because the discipline of rest is not being practiced in our own life. So I want to spend some time talking about this. And why rest, right? Why rest? I think some of us thinking, hey, I don't need rest. I'm invincible. I don't need rest. Okay, only other people need rest. But we know that if we, these familiar passages, I'm sure you know all this. Maybe I can ask Alex, do you mind read for us these verses? Do you mind read for us these two verses here on the screen?
Okay, so Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 to 10, it says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor a foreigner residing in your towns." In the last verse, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 12, it says, "Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you."
Great, thank you so much. I'm so sorry that we've been showing so many slides already. No wonder you guys are confused.
I'm so sorry.
We're so sorry. We're actually at least 5 more slides before up to this point. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, don't worry. I hope when we do the recording, you'll be able to see some of the slides. Okay, no problem. Okay, the reason why I asked us to read these verses, first of all, the keep repeating words here? What are some repeated words here? I kind of highlighted it. Anyone? How about Jack? What do you think? What are some of the words that I keep highlighting?
Your.
You and your, right? You, okay? So it's interesting. What do you think this you means? Is it just certain people or everyone? How many of you think everyone? This is for everyone. Raise your hand. Anyone? It's for everyone, right? So, which means even for us in ministry workers, including all of us, okay? Ministry leaders, pastor, all of us, this command is for all of us. Now, if you notice this verse, the command not only extend to ourselves. Now, God being, he demonstrated this example for all of us, every one of us. He created the world 6 days, and the 7th day, he said, you need to rest, okay? And he made an example for all of us. Now, some of us, this verse actually extended not only us. This is a covenant between God and Israel to represent him. We set this day to be holy, to set aside. So people, it's a command that God has asked each one of us to do. And we all know this is not only a command, but a spiritual discipline. You and your family and your coworkers, if you see here, the first talk about not only you, your son and your daughter, your servant, male, female servant, your animals, even the foreigner residing in your towns. Okay, which means everyone. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, sometime Monday is our day off, right? And sometimes we might schedule more meetings, more ministry commitments, more ministry activities. So we might have to, I understand sometimes our culture give us a lot of pressure. But when God said we need to observe a Sabbath, maybe there's one day, okay, just one day. We don't have to do anything that related to our work, which is sometimes will be our ministry, right? It's a faith test. Do we think we're stronger than God? I want to share with you this story. I still remember when we were in seminary, there was a time that we were very stressed about our school. I remember the first semester, and I was trying so hard. We were trying so hard to study. And I still remember when we get up in the morning, we go to school, study, and lunchtime, 15, 20 minutes. And then we study again until dinner time, another 15, 20 minutes, and we study till midnight. Okay. And this goes on for 7 days. Okay. Can you imagine? By the third month of my semester, I almost died. Okay. I was so depressed. I felt like Elijah. I said, God, I want to die. I don't want to continue. Now, I don't know how many of us here feeling that way because of the ministry commitment, the things that people expectations, maybe your studies, you feel that way. You know what I learned the most? What God told me? Because of that period of depressed, God said, you've been relying on your own strength to do your ministry, rely on your own strength to study. Now change things around. So ever since the episode where I was so depressed, God gave me a schedule, and also both of us a schedule that I need to take care of myself emotionally, physically, and I start exercising. We start scheduling rest. So there's Sunday for sure. We will not do homework on Sunday, and then Friday night we will go out have fun with our friends, just to have social gathering. So that changes everything. And it was a faith journey, I tell you. There are times we really want to do homework, okay, during those promised rest time before God, okay? But I'm so glad God taught us this wonderful lesson, and he showed it to us at the end of a semester. Our performance actually increased because the time that we took time to rest, the discipline of rest, we did invest it in the rest time, so we become more effective each week. We can fight again the following week. We can fight again the following week because we took the time to rest. You don't have to tell me, okay, when was the last time you had a real Sabbath, okay? Okay, all right, very good, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to go through each one of the rest with you. So this is a book that was extremely helpful. It's called Sacred Rest. And if you're interested, there's a workshop already been done last year. I will send you the YouTube link after, where we talk about 7 different ways to rest, which is very important. We often thought rest is just sleeping, but it's actually more than sleeping. There's actually 7 different ways to rest. Okay. The first one, spiritual rest. When we talk about spiritual rest, we're talking about processing our brokenness before God, which means you can be real before God. We're not just talking about spiritual disciplines. We're talking about the true us, the brokenness, the challenges that we have. We can come before God and cry, complain, and give our challenges to God. Okay. So this is what we talk about spiritual rest. Another one is creative rest. Okay. It's something called a recreational hobby. Having a hobby, finding a nature, walking nature is the in all of God. Now in Singapore, we have beach here. So beach would be one of our spiritual rest. When we go there, we see the beautiful creative rest. Yeah, creative rest and the nature, and then we find rest. Okay, so any mountains or anything that will energize you, that we call creative rest. Physical rest, we talk about regular exercise, healthy diets. Social emotional rest is to build meaningful relationships or stay away from any toxic relationships that you might have. Okay, and the fact that you can just be you, okay, when you're being with the people, trusted friends or your family or someone, okay, that you can truly be yourself. You don't have to pretend I'm pastor so and so, or I am, whoever that is, right? The expectations that you could be yourself. Okay, last but not least, sensory rest, which is the rest of fasting from gadgets and social media. Okay, because right now we're often on our phones a lot. Okay, so sensory rest, it also means being away from social media, from a phone, and the five senses. It's a five senses taking a rest. Okay, mental rest is understanding that there's certain times that would be more effective if you have to do certain things. For example, if you have to prepare sermons or anything that is very draining to your brain, the best time to work would be the morning. Now, some of you might experience that. That might be your way. So you're understanding yourself, when would be the most effective way, for you to do certain tasks, okay? And then you kind of arrange your schedule accordingly. Rest is an investment in our own well-being and the secret to our thriving ministry, a command by God and a spiritual discipline. Now, often we talk about spiritual discipline, we talk about many other things. When we think about the word rest, maybe our culture also tells us that means laziness, unproductive. But in God's eyes, it's such an important spiritual discipline for all of us, especially for us as ministry workers. Okay, now would love for you to spend some time thinking about how to fill up your emotional bank by practicing rest. I've talked about 7 different ways to rest, so I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to show you what you need to do. Okay, if you have a piece of paper, think about what are some ways will help deposit into your emotional bank. The 7 thing I've kind of talked about earlier, maybe it has given you some suggestions. For me, I give you some example. For me, deposit my emotional bank is to create something, go shopping, hang out with good friends, walk in nature, or sometimes being alone, okay? Not being with anyone. Withdrawal, I feel when I'm feeling trapped in a situation, I feel very withdrawal to my emotional bank. Lack of me time, lack of exercise, that really affects my emotions. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes, each one of you. Okay, think for a minute for yourself. Okay, this is for yourself. Okay, what are some of the ways that will help me, yourself, to deposit into your own personal emotional bank? And what are some ways that will kind of withdraw that? Okay, I'll give you 3 minutes to do that. Okay, so I hope you have a chance to think about how you can invest in yourself and what actually withdraw from your emotional bank. If you have print out the schedule, okay, think about in this schedule, okay, when would be the best time for you to practice the self-care? Okay, when would be the best time for you to schedule in here? Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes, just think through the schedule here. Where would be the best time to do your self-care, and also kind of discuss with your spouse whether you'll be able to do that. Okay, so think about a time that you can do that. Okay. Okay, so I hope you had a time of reflecting how to input, kind of invest in your emotional bank, because I think if we are not emotionally healthy, we cannot be carrying the people around us. And so it's important that we invest in our own emotional health. All right, so next I'm going to let Jacob to talk about the next topic here.
All right. So, okay. The next topic we're going to talk about is emotional neglects between spouse. This week, we're going to talk about husband neglecting the wife. Next week, we're going to talk about wife neglecting the husband. But I just want to emphasize something that Josephine said earlier, and it's the importance of self-care. When I first started in ministry, a very wise pastor gave me the following advice, and that is, you must know when to take care of yourself. This pastor used to be a fireman, so he used to be a firefighter, and he said the first lesson they learn in firefighting is they have to learn to drop every equipment and run away from the fire, which sounds almost crazy because firemen, you think they're courageous, they're supposed to go in and save people, right? He actually said the first lesson they learn is you have to drop everything and run. Why? Because if you try to be a hero and you begin to neglect your own self-care, even though you're in trouble, you end up being a burden to somebody else. So you, instead of helping people save lives, you actually end up collapsing yourself, in which case you become another problem for the other firefighters to have to solve. So he said there's no shame. In fact, it's wise to know when to drop everything, take care of yourself before you go back and fight the fire. I think there's so much truth in that for people in ministry. Quite often, we don't even know we're in trouble. So we say, well, we can do it, and then we collapse. And then we become a burden for somebody else. So keep that in mind. Self-care is very important. So don't neglect that. So the next thing we're going to look at is emotional neglect between husband, spouse, but today we're going to look at husband neglecting wife. The truth is, we husbands sometimes may be neglecting our spouse emotionally, and we don't even realize it because we're so busy doing stuff. We're just moving from one meeting to the next, preparing for one ministry to the next. And sooner or later, we just lose sight of the fact that our spouse, the wife, may be experiencing emotional neglect. So what might be some of the signs that your wife is going through emotional neglect? Well, I think one is there's just a distant relationship between spouse. Yes, you're living together, you're eating together, you may even be sleeping in the same bed together, but there's such separation between the two that there's no longer a connection, there's no spark in the relationship. And then there's obviously arguments and conflicts that come up a lot. And sometimes, actually more often than not, the conflict is because we fail to understand each other because we've been so disconnected. For instance, the wife might say to the husband, "Oh, you don't care about me because you're not listening to what I'm saying. You don't respond to what I'm saying." But what she may not realize is that the husband may have had a really bad day. In fact, something tragic happened in ministry, that somebody got hurt emotionally or maybe physically. So while the wife is complaining, she failed to see that was the problem. Conversely, a husband may come home and see, wow, the house is a mess. And you say, oh, how come the wife is not taking good care of the house? But what he may have neglected is the fact that she had a really tough day at home. The kids were not behaving. In fact, some of the kids were sick. So she was just so overwhelmed. So a lot of times the conflict and the argument come out because of misunderstanding. And of course, another sign of emotional neglect is serving by oneself, meaning the husband and the wife, they each are doing their own thing. Now, that's not to say the husband and wife must serve together, but the reality is those of us in ministry, we spend a lot of time in ministry. And if we each have our own ministry by ourselves, chances are you're really not able to spend much time together because you each are so focused on your own ministry. And if that prolonged, then sooner or later there's going to be some separation in that relationship. So if possible, try to find an opportunity to serve together so that there's no separation. And of course, the spouse may feel lonely, isolated, and abandoned. Best way to do that is just to ask, hey, honey, are you okay? Do you feel I've been neglecting you? And, are you lonely? Have I abandoned you? So I think we need to just be mindful and check that from time to time. So now, what might be some of the causes for emotional neglect? Well, I think number one is we're just not there physically because we're off doing something. We're off on a 3 months missions trip. We don't ever come home or whatever, church planting. We've been gone for a long time. Well, if we're not there physically, we're too busy to be at home. That is really a warning sign that you may be neglecting the person. As much as people say, oh, we can live apart and still be in good relationship. Based on my experience working with couples, that's the mindset they started, and eventually the marriage falls apart. They don't realize the importance of being together and physically. So that's one cause. Another cause is you're present, but you're not engaged. You're distracted by phones and text messages and whatever, right? So oftentimes we could be sitting in the same room, right? Eating dinner at the same table, husband and wife, they may be facing each other, but they're each checking the phone, updating whatever, texting. So it's no different than bringing another friend sitting right at that table, as far as I'm concerned. If you're texting someone else, you've basically invited someone else to that table. And that is not fair for your spouse. So you're present but not engaged because of gadgets, whatever it may be. That's also another cause for emotional neglect. So how do we avoid emotional neglect? A pastor once said, oftentimes he's afraid to go home, or he actually, whenever he goes home, he feels overwhelmed. Because as soon as he stepped into the house, he hears the kids screaming, right? So noisy. And then the wife is complaining, oh, the kitchen floor is broken, or the tap is dripping, and the toilet won't flush. All these things starts to come up, and all of a sudden he just feels so overwhelmed, this pastor. But one time as he was driving home, God spoke to him and said, Christ died for you and became a servant. I want you to do the same for your family. And when he came to that realization, he said, Lord, I want to do that. Help me to know how I can be a servant to my family when I go home. Instead of expecting to be served, how can I go and serve them the moment I step into the house? And he came to the realization that basically you need to rest and ask God for that extra strength. Most of us go home really tired because we've had a long day. And when you're tired, you're not in a position to serve people. So what you need to do is you need to find an opportunity to rest a little bit, have a quick recharge to your battery before you go home. So as you're heading home, you must learn to disengage, meaning get your mind off your busy day. Whatever you've been doing that day, begin to unwind as you're taking the bus home or as you're doing the MRT. So as a student, the moment you start taking a bus, you start to unwind. Instead of reading, doing more homework, you say, now I need to recharge. I need to disengage from my busy schedule so that I can recharge. And after that, when I go home, I'll have a little bit more energy to do that. So as you're heading home, prepare your heart and mind. Don't check your phone. Don't read, your social media. Just rest. I mean, that's the beauty of taking the bus or the train, right? You actually don't have to do anything. The bus will take you home. So during that time, you rest and you recharge and you pray for strength. And then once you get home, your job as the husband is not to try to solve problem, but to just listen and understand. Sometimes it's really hard to do for guys, especially. Quite honestly, as a Christian leader, whether you're a pastor, you're a minister, you are heading off some kind of ministry, more often than not, throughout your day, whenever someone invite you to coffee or attend a meeting, they expect you to make a decision. They expect you to solve a problem. They expect you to give you a plan. They expect you to give them a plan. That's why you're invited to those meetings and, can we have coffee? Well, when they say that, it's not just to have coffee. They want to ask you something and they expect an answer. So that's the world we live in during the day. But sometimes when we go home, we also carry that same mindset. And that can be very overwhelming. But your relationship with your family shouldn't be about solving problems, shouldn't be about giving answers. So what we need to learn to do is just listen and understand without having to give a solution or make a decision. That's the beauty of being in your family. You're not there for a transaction. You're there for a relationship. So just listen. Listen to your wife. Acknowledge, repeat, kind of paraphrase what she said. Maybe it's, oh, honey, I heard you had a bad day, and because the child just wasn't behaving, and the food that you were cooking burned, and all these other issues. And then after that, you just acknowledge. So you say, oh, because of all that, you must be feeling very tired, feeling very stressed, right? Yeah, I'm feeling really tired, really stressed. That's it. And then that's all you need to do. It's just listen, paraphrase what they said, and acknowledge the feelings. You don't have to go on to say, well, this is my thinking. This is what you should do, or this is my judgment. Oh, you're not fair, or you're being lazy, or you're complaining a lot. That's not being a good listener. Listener only listens not just to the words, but also to the emotion. And that's all you need to do. So when you go home, don't have to try to solve all the problems. You won't be able to do it anyways. Just listen and learn to understand. And then create couple time, every day. so that you can have those opportunity to just carry each other's burden without necessarily having a solution, but just sharing the stress, the challenges. Some other solutions you can think about, like I said, have daily check-in. Okay, just spend 10 to 15 minutes of uninterrupted time. Key is uninterrupted. Okay, don't carry your phone into those check-in time. That's just as bad as bring your whole office to to your wife and have a check-in time, because you're basically doing that, right? So ask, how was her day? What made her happy? What made her sad? And just listen. Again, don't try to fix anything. Have regular date nights. I think those date nights provide they're like vitamins to the relationship, right? If you're strong in a relationship, you can fight off a lot of temptation. You can fight off a lot of challenges. Just like if you take vitamins, you can fight off germs in the same way in your marriage as well. So during your date, talk about specific things that each other can do to support each other's needs. We've been kind of encouraging you to do that on your date nights. Share your struggles, and then very importantly, do something fun together. So Josephine and I in Singapore, we've tried many different things in Singapore. One of the things we've tried doing is we throw axe. The axe people used to chop. We go out and we go to a place where we can throw axe, which sounds very violent, but it's actually a lot of fun. We can release a lot of stress by throwing axe, and we both kind of use that as a way to release stress. But you may be different. You may want to eat together, whatever the case may be. Support her dream. One of the things that we need to learn to do better is we're very good at discipling others and supporting the dreams of others, but we often neglect the person that is meant to be most important to us, and that is the wife. So learn to support your spouse's dream in light of his or her talent. And by supporting, it means sometimes you have to free her up to pursue training, to attend workshop, to go out and learn, to take part in some activities. All those things are a concrete way of supporting her. Don't say, I support you, honey, but I won't free you up. I won't give you time. I'm not going to give you any space. I won't support you financially. You got to do it with action to show you really support. Pray, discuss, decide together as a couple your future goals. I think we share this. One of the reasons why we came to Singapore, although I had other ministry offers and opportunity, is that Singapore at East was the one place where I feel like we can serve together as a couple. She can excel and use her talent in ministry, while I'll do that as well. And we can also serve together many times in different ways. Other places, I had a great ministry opportunity, but I didn't see her as being part of that. And I said no, because I want her to be one with me, right? And it's not just a romantic or fancy thing we say. When we're one in flesh, it means we have to embrace this place together. So set healthy boundaries at home. So make sure when you're home, you're truly home mentally, physically, emotionally, instead of you're home but your mind is elsewhere, right? Or you're at the dinner table but your brain is thinking about work or ministry. And then finally, seek godly and wise people for advice and or professionals. I think over our life journey, God has blessed us with very wise couples who have walked before us, and we just by interacting with them, they give us really good ideas. Okay, so I just want to give you a time to just share how, and this is really for for the wife to share how your husband can deposit and will withdraw your emotional bank. So what can your husband do to deposit into your emotional bank? What are some of the things he has done that is withdrawing from the emotional bank, right? Don't get into a fight. This is just a chance to share very honestly. There may be things he has done that he's not even aware of, but it's really draining you emotionally. So take a moment now to share what helps deposit into emotional bank. So it lifts you up emotionally. What are the withdrawals? What are some things he has done that takes away from you emotionally? Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to do that.
All right. Last but not least, I would love for you to take out your schedule here. Remember, I told you to print out the schedule. I want to give you a few minutes. I want to especially discuss with your husband when and how he can help deposit your emotional bank in the schedule. Okay, we want to make it very concrete so you can discuss with your spouse. Look at the schedule together. Okay, let's say maybe Saturday morning, 2 hours. Please give me some free alone time. Please take care of the children, take the kids away. Give me some alone time. Or, let's schedule a date night. 2 hours every Saturday night. It will be a date night. Okay, we'll be intentional finding babysitter. That will be the time that we're committed to a date night. Okay, so here's just some example. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes. Talk to your spouse. Okay, ask, hey, on the schedule, when you can help me deposit some of the emotionally. How can you help to deposit your emotionally into my bank? Okay. All right. I hope all of you had a chance to put this into schedule, how you can concretely help deposit into your wife's emotional bank. And let me guarantee you, all the husbands here, this is a very good investment for you. Okay. Very good investment to you. Okay. If you're wondering why your wife is not happy, okay, this is probably one of the reasons why, because she's overwhelmed. But your weekly investment in her emotional bank, you will have a much happier, much healthier wife, and your life would become so happy and joyful. Okay,
Yay.
happy wife, happy home. Okay,
Happy wife, happy
unhappy
life.
wife, unhappy home. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Unhappy wife, unhappy life. You know.
So this is a good investment for you, all the husbands here. And I'm so glad DJ Jacob encouraged me to do that. Okay, so he allowed me to have time to do my own self-care. So I'm really grateful for that. And this is really good investment. And today we talked about some of the very important emotional self-care. We talk about how we take care of ourselves. If we don't know how to take care of ourselves, we cannot love the people around us. So first of all, our personal self-care. And then today we talked about how our husband can help us deposit into our emotional bank. Now, husband, you're probably thinking, hey, when is my turn to tell my wife? Okay, how can you deposit into my bank?
Next week.
Next week. Okay, next week.
Make sure your husband come back next week.
Yeah.
If he miss anything, make sure he doesn't miss next week. It's
Yes.
all about the husband. So
It will be your turn to tell your wife how she can help you, how she can deposit into your emotional bank next time. All right. So we're gonna take a break now, and then we're gonna go into the marriage course by Alpha. So we're gonna give you the instructions, and we're gonna send you the link.
yeah, I've already WhatsApped you the link. So it's same as before. This one is about hour and 41 minutes. It's on power of forgiveness, which is something that's very powerful and much needed in any relationship. So I know you'll enjoy the session. So go ahead. You can take a 5-10 minute break and then start the video. We will come back here in 2 hours time. So Singapore time, it would be 5:45, whatever that works out to in your region. So just come back in about 2 hours time. So 5:45 Singapore time. Okay. If you have any questions, just WhatsApp us. We're on the other side. Otherwise, go ahead and enjoy your time learning about forgiveness with your spouse. All right? Okay.
All right. How many of you find today's session helpful? Raise your hand. Is it helpful to you? Okay, good. All right. So we all now take care of ourselves, okay? Our emotional health. Wonderful. Awesome. Okay, good job. Okay, I hope we can all practice it. Okay, we'll see you in 2 hours. Okay.